1989, Batman stopped being camp and started being scary. Before Christopher Nolan brought the brooding, before Christian Bale growled, and long before the DCU imploded into CGI rubble, there was Tim Burton, a 30-year-old goth weirdo with a vision, and no one trusted him. Not the studio, not the press, and definitely not the fans. But he made a Batman film that cracked open the modern superhero genre and dropped it into the shadows. The real story, it's not just capes and gadgets. It's casting wars, back alley deals, and a Batmobile with no reverse gear. If this kind of cinematic chaos makes your bat ears twitch, hit subscribe. We've got more bizarre, behind-the-scenes stories than Joker has knives, and we're just warming up the bat signal. Like, click, ring the bell, you know the drill. Here are 15 mind-blowing facts about Batman you didn't know. 1. The casting of Michael Keaton nearly caused a riot. When Warner Bros. Announced Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne, fans revolted. Letters poured in, 50,000 of them. This was Mr. Mom, not the Dark Knight. Studio execs panicked. Headlines screamed, Keaton can't be Batman. Even Bob Kane, Batman's co-creator, expressed doubts. But Burton stood firm. He didn't want a muscle-bound hero. He wanted vulnerability masked by menace. Keaton delivered both. And the final irony? His dead-eyed intensity in the Batsuit, born from limited movement and claustrophobia, became iconic. The hate faded, the myth endured, and 50,000 apology letters, yeah, they never came. 2. Jack Nicholson made $90 million off the Joker. Jack Nicholson didn't just play the Joker, he outnegotiated Hollywood. He agreed to a lower salary, only $6 million, but demanded a cut of merchandising and box office gross. The result? He made around $90 million. That's more than most modern stars make across entire franchises. Nicholson also had unprecedented control over his schedule, wardrobe, and shooting times. He even made sure Lakers games took precedence over filming. It wasn't just a role, it was a power move. And when people say the Joker's the smartest guy in the room, they might be talking about Jack. 3. The Batmobile had no reverse. Gear sleek, futuristic, utterly impractical. The Batmobile looked amazing, but it handled like a drunk tank. The first version had no reverse gear, 0. So if Keaton overshot a mark, they had to physically drag it backward offset. It also had the turning radius of a cruise ship and visibility so bad Keaton couldn't drive it without help. And yet, somehow, it worked. The Batmobile became the ultimate gothic ride, not because it was functional, but because it felt like Batman. Fast, weird, and utterly unforgiving. Rule 1 of Gotham, style over physics. Fourth Prince's soundtrack was a studio power play. Tim Burton wanted Danny Elfman's eerie orchestral score to dominate. Warner Brothers wanted something they could sell. Enter Prince. The artist wrote an entire Batman-inspired album in 6 weeks. Burton reportedly hated it, thought it clashed with the film's tone. But the studio inserted Prince's music into major scenes anyway, including the Joker's museum rampage to Party Man. The soundtrack went platinum. Prince got his own music video with bat symbols and purple trench coats. The movie got a sonic identity crisis, and the result? A film that plays like a gothic opera, with a dance party jammed in. 5. Tim Burton almost quit during production. Midway through filming, Tim Burton was overwhelmed. He'd never handled a production this huge. Budget, pressure, studio interference. The sets were massive, the script kept changing, and Jack Nicholson's star power loomed over everything. I didn't know what I was doing, Burton admitted. He considered walking away. But then came the cathedral climax. He locked in, found the rhythm, turned panic into style. And when he finished, he'd not only reinvented Batman, he'd proved a punk outsider could bend Hollywood to his vision. Gotham wasn't built in a day, but it damn near broke him. 6. The Gotham sets were so massive, they changed the weather. Pinewood Studios in England became Gotham City, a sprawling Gothic maze built from scratch. Production designer Anton Furst constructed entire city blocks, complete with alleys, bridges, and looming gargoyles. It was so vast and dense, it actually disrupted airflow around the studio lot and caused its own microclimate. Fog would linger longer, temperatures fluctuated inside the set. Rain behaved oddly. It was like Gotham infected the real world. And walking those streets, cast and crew said it felt more like being in a nightmare than being on a film set, which is exactly what Burton wanted. 7. Robin Williams was used as bait for Jack Nicholson. Warner Brothers really wanted Jack Nicholson to play the Joker, but he wasn't saying yes, so they offered the role to Robin Williams instead. When word got back to Jack, he suddenly said yes. The studio promptly dropped Williams. Understandably, Robin was furious. He reportedly refused to work with Warner Brothers again unless they issued a public apology. They didn't. He later turned down the Riddler role in Batman Forever out of spite. The Joker might have been chaotic evil, but the casting process, that was pure corporate villainy. And Robin, forever a hero. 8. The Joker's smile was based on a real medical condition. That grotesque frozen grin wasn't just creepy makeup, it was inspired by a real condition. Glasgow smile or Chelsea grin, a brutal facial disfigurement often associated with gang violence. The prosthetic design for Nicholson's Joker required a permanent grimace built onto his face, which distorted his expressions and forced him to overact just to be readable. The result? A performance that was physically painful and visually unforgettable. Nicholson didn't just play the Joker, he wore him. And every laugh came with the shadow of something deeply wrong behind the makeup. 9. Michael Keaton could barely move in the Batsuit. The Batsuit looked cool. It also trapped Keaton like a tomb. Made of thick rubber, it had no flexibility, no neck movement, no ventilation. He couldn't turn his head, so he developed that iconic full-body turn. He couldn't sit down, so he leaned against walls between takes. He even admitted the discomfort helped him get into Batman's headspace. Isolated, armored, suffocating. That stoic silence, less brooding, more breath control. In trying to look like a superhero, he was physically imprisoned, which is kind of poetic if you think about Bruce Wayne's whole deal. The 10th, the final fight scene was completely improvised. The climactic cathedral brawl between Batman and the Joker, that wasn't in the script. Originally, Joker was just supposed to escape via helicopter, but Burton wanted something more dramatic. So he had the actors and stunt team wing it, literally with minimal choreography. Keaton couldn't move much in the suit, and Nicholson wasn't keen on physicality, so they fought with gestures, snarls, and environmental chaos. The result feels messy, spontaneous, dangerous, like two icons crashing into each other without a plan, because that's exactly what it was. No prep, just pain, ego, and gravity. 11. Batman kills people and no one talked about it. In this version of Gotham, Batman has no qualms about body count. He drops goons off rooftops, blows up a factory full of henchmen, and straight up kills the Joker. No moral crisis, no angst, just explosions and a granite scowl. Fans later criticized the carnage, but in 1989, nobody blinked. The idea of Batman as a pacifist hadn't yet solidified. Burton said, "He's not the Boy Scout, he's a guy with issues." And Keaton agreed. He's not a superhero, he's a freak. So yeah, this Batman kills. And maybe in a city like Gotham, that's the scariest part. 12. Vicky Vale was supposed to die. The original script killed off Kim Basinger's Vicky Vale. She was meant to die in the Bell Tower finale, a classic damsel sacrifice to drive Batman's rage. But test audiences hated it. They liked Vale. They wanted a happy ending, so the scene was rewritten last minute to let her live. You can still see some weirdness in the edit, scenes where her presence makes no plot sense. But that's Burton compromise, style first, logic maybe, and Vale's survival, a rare case of test audiences saving the day without needing a cape. 13. The Joker's helicopter exit was nearly a disaster. The final Joker scene, where he dangles from a helicopter, laughing as he dies, was technically risky and practically insane. They used a real stuntman suspended hundreds of feet in the air, with Nicholson's laugh dubbed over later. The timing had to be perfect. The wire tension, the drop, the release. One miscalculation and the stuntman wouldn't need makeup to look dead. Luckily, it worked. Barely. The scene became iconic, but it also became a warning. Practical effects can look amazing and nearly kill your crew in the process. Gotham's skyline isn't just fake, it's fatal. 14. Danny Elfman had to fight for his score. Danny Elfman's sweeping, brooding theme is now legendary, but it almost didn't happen. The studio hated it. They wanted something punchier. Producers even considered replacing Elfman's orchestral score with pop music. Elfman, furious, walked out of a scoring session. Burton backed him. Eventually, they snuck the music into a test screening without telling execs. Audiences loved it. Suddenly, Elfman was a genius. The score stayed, and the Batman theme became the gold standard for dark superhero grandeur. But for a moment there, it was almost Batman, the musical. No thanks. 15. Tim Burton didn't read comics and still nailed it. Burton was not a comic book fan. He didn't care about canon, lore, or continuity. He cared about mood, shadow, trauma, so he leaned on the aesthetic of German expressionism, film noir, and childhood nightmares. Gotham became a gothic dreamscape. Batman became a man too broken to speak. It upset purists, but it hypnotized audiences. Burton reinvented Batman by not caring about what came before. He didn't adapt the comics. He adapted the feeling of being haunted. And that maybe is why his Batman still lingers. Mythic, weird, and made by a guy who never opened a single issue. In 1989, Batman stopped being a punchline and became a phantom. The suit didn't fit. The director didn't care about comics. The car couldn't back up. But somehow, it all worked. Gotham was built on chaos, and that's exactly how this movie was made. And when the smoke cleared, one thing was obvious. Batman didn't need to be perfect. He just needed to be dark.